In March, Texas Democrats will choose a candidate to face Governor Greg Abbott in next year's election. But one already appears to be rising above the field. New polling shows State Representative Gina Hinojosa with an impressive lead over the other Democrats in the race. The poll comes from the Barbara Jordan Public Policy Research and Survey Center at Texas Southern University. They polled 1,600 likely Democratic primary voters. The results show 41% say they intend to vote for Hinojosa. Houston businessman Andrew White is the next closest candidate at just 6%, followed by former Congressman Chris Bell at 5%. However, 42% of likely Democratic primary voters say they're not sure how they'll vote just yet. Despite Hinojosa's lead, nearly half of the people polled said they don't know enough about her to have an opinion. Capitol correspondent Adam Schwager sat down with the representative to learn more about her priorities in this race.
Just to start off, for those of our audience who might not know who you are, who is Gina Hinojosa and why should Texans elect her to be the next governor of Texas?
Well, I'm a mom. I ran for office originally because my son's school was threatened for closure, so I ran for the school board and won. And on the school board, I realized that the reason why my son's school and so many others were threatened for closure is because the state takes our money and doesn't put it back into our neighborhood public schools. So I ran for the House, and I've been representing Central Austin for almost 10 years now. This is my 5th term, and now I'm running for governor because I realized that the reason why there's not money for our schools despite sky-high property taxes is because so much of our money is going to pay really what is a system of grift that I refer to as the Greg Abbott corruption tax.
So speaking of which, what would be some of those day one policies that you would implement should you be elected as governor?
I'm glad you asked. So let's focus on education. That's an issue I know well and I've been working on over the past few years in the Texas House. So this session I introduced a bill, and we had a press conference actually. And we had a press conference where MAGA moms joined me in this press conference. And what it did was it wiped the slate clean of the vendor contracts that have gotten out of control when it comes to our public schools. The vendor contracts of the state are where a lot of our dollars are going. So it wipes the slate clean of the vendor contracts and then builds a budget that speaks to the priorities that we all know we need for our kids, like a well-paid teacher. We all know that the best thing we can do for a child's education is to put a great teacher in the classroom, but our teachers make almost $10,000 below the national average. So let's pay teachers their worth. And so we have among the highest paid teachers in the country, smaller class sizes, special education funding, and school safety. These are priorities that parents know we need in our neighborhood public schools. They're not rocket science, right? We all recognize these are good things. They don't happen because too much of our money is going to grift.
Well, usually this is the part where I'd ask how you plan to stand apart from the primary field, but there was polling that came out on Thursday morning that showed that you have a fairly commanding lead, 41% of likely Democratic primary voters throwing their weight behind you compared to your next closest opponent at 6%. What do you attribute that large lead to, and how do you keep that momentum going through that March 3rd primary?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't take anything for granted, but I am really, it is a feeling of satisfaction to know that my work over almost a decade has been appreciated by Democrats across this state. I have fought hard for our public schools. I have fought hard for working Texans, and what the polling shows is that people have noticed and people appreciate it, and I'm just so grateful for that.
We told you how polling shows Hinojosa with a large lead in the Democratic race. We wanted to find out a little more about some of the others on the ballot. Here's what 3 of them told us about why they're running.
I'm running for governor of Texas as an independent Democrat, which is a Democrat who will unite progressives and moderates together and invite independents into our party, because we have to make the big tent a little bigger if we're going to win in November. And Democrats haven't won in the last 30 years. So my background, I've been a businessman for the past 30 years. And I've started 4 different businesses and sold those businesses to focus on this campaign. 2 businesses were in residential services. 1 business was a clean tech business that's recycled millions of pounds of waste at industrial plants. And another business was a border security business. which is kind of unique. You know, Greg Abbott likes to talk about border security. Well, I can do that too. And so I have a very broad background in business, and it's time to do something different. My dad used to say, if you want to have a different result, you got to do something different. And Democrats haven't won in 30 years. Like I said, Greg Abbott is undefeated running against politicians. I'm different. I'm a businessman, and I'm ready to do the job.
Well, I'm an everyday, ordinary Texan who, just like most Texans, do extraordinary things as far as we are the economy. We built the state, and we should become the priority of the state. And I think we've been left behind by a leadership in Austin that has catered to their big donors and big corporations. I have been a farmer. I've worked in warehouses and stocked shelves. I've been a career firefighter, and most importantly, I've been a husband and a father and a grandfather. And I'm concerned about the legacy that I'm leaving them. I've worked my whole life to build that and leave it to them, and I'm worried about that, and that's why I'm running for governor.
We're at a critical time here in the state of Texas, and it worries me because the other main motivating force for me was that I really do believe that Greg Abbott and others have basically declared war on public school education. And public schools have been the keys to so many futures for Texans, and we have to get away from that mindset and start doing what we need to do to make sure that when kids graduate high school, they're one of two things, either ready to go to college or ready to go to work. And I assure you that's my #1 goal.
There is much more to see from the Democrats running for governor. We've posted our complete interviews on our website. Just look for the links in this week's State of Texas story.
This is the single most important economic question in the country and in the world. Who wins the race for AI?
President Trump issues an executive order aimed at giving the U.S. the advantage when it comes to AI. But the federal plan is raising questions about the impact on a new state law set to take effect.